Hello everyone, my name is H2Acon and today I'm here with the 5th episode of our series, Character Case Files. So far in the series we've looked at the stories of John 117, Catherine Halsey, Sergeant Johnson and Cortana, all great human characters. However, Halo is about more than just one species, so today we're going to branch out a bit and look at one of the many alien characters in the series. Let's take a look at the backstory of the Arbiter, Thel Vadam. Thel was born to the Vadam family, the rulers of the young but powerful state of Vadam on Sanghelios, the homeworld of the Sangheli. His upbringing was typical of Sangheli culture, consisting of brutal martial training from a young age to toughen him for life in the Covenant military. Like most male Sangheli, Thel joined the army once an adult, and thereby earned the right to use the honorific E suffix denoting military service, thus changing his name to Thel Vadam E. Thel fought in the Siege of Madrigal, a human outer colony world, in 2528, and was later promoted to the rank of shipmaster. Shortly after the promotion, Thel was injured during a bout in the training ring. His family kept the incident a secret to prevent damage to Thel's honour, however the memory always remained of shame to him. In 2535, Thel was elected Kaidon, the leader of Vadam. It was an honoured Sangheli tradition for anyone who doubted the new Kaidon's ability to rule to send assassins to test the new leader's martial prowess. Thel's accession was no exception. On the morning of his first day as Kaidon, 3 Sangheli assassins wielding energy swords broke into his private rooms. Having stayed up all night expecting such an attack, Thel was able to meet and kill all 3 assassins without receiving a single scratch. Thel executed the elder responsible for ordering the attack, Koida Vadam, and banished his family. Shortly thereafter, Thel went back into active service as shipmaster of the Covenant destroyer Retribution's Thunder. He served under the command of the Prophet of Regret in the Battle of Charbidis 9, a small engagement against 3 human destroyers over a human colony world of the same name. On Charbidis 9, the Covenant discovered hordes of plasma weaponry that had been modified for human use. Outraged by the blasphemy that this symbolized, the Prophet of Regret ordered Thel to take his ship to the 23 Libre system to track down a group of Kigyar suspected of modifying the weapons and selling them to humans. Unbeknownst to either Thel or the Prophet of Regret, one of the other hierarchs, the Prophet of Truth, was actually behind the modification of the weapons. The Kigyar operations in 23 Libre were actually one of Truth's devious schemes. By giving the weapons to human insurrectionists, and then tracking the weapons, Truth hoped to be able to discover the location of humanity's homeworld, Earth. However, as Regret had no knowledge of this plan, Thel and the Retribution's Thunder were sent with orders to shut down the operation. Upon arriving at the 23 Libre system, the Retribution's Thunder was attacked by Kigyar forces during its search of the system's asteroid belt, nicknamed the Rubble. Thel and his small band of Sangheli warriors were captured by the Kigyar and held in detention on one of the asteroids. Before long, however, Thel and his remaining zealots had broken free and escaped to the surface of the nearby planet Metaset. Groundside on Metaset, Thel and the other Sangheli were able to capture the Kigyar leader Reth. Under interrogation, he told them that he was acting under the orders of Truth, and this revelation deeply troubled Thel, as he was now unsure as to whether or not to shut down the weapon trading. The decision was taken out of his hands, however, by the appearance of UNSC forces, who destroyed Reth's redoubt on Metaset. Having survived the battle, Thel reported back to the Prophets of Truth and Regret, alongside his comrade Jar. Fearing that they would order his execution, Jar drew his energy sword on the hierarchs. Although also expecting execution, Thel drew his own sword and used it to slay Jar, thus protecting the 2 Sanshayim. This extraordinary show of loyalty prompted Truth to spare Thel's life, and he was sent to the Covenant capital, High Charity, to await reassignment. Before long, Thel was given command of a ship in the newly formed Fleet of Particular Justice, and he continued to serve with that fleet for the next 2 decades of human Covenant conflict. By 2552, Thel had become the supreme commander of the fleet, and it was he who led the Covenant forces during the fall of Reach. When the UNSC Pillar of Autumn fled the system, Thel gave the order for a handful of ships to break off, and he led the pursuit of the cruiser that resulted in the discovery of Halo Installation 04. Following his failure to prevent the Master Chief and the other UNSC forces from the Autumn destroying the Alpha Halo, Thel was tried for heresy by the Covenant High Council and sentenced to death. Luckily for him, the Prophet of Truth intervened and commuted his sentence to appointment to the rank of Arbiter. This brings us up to the events of Halos 2 and 3, where Thel played a crucial role in the Great Schism, the separation of the Sangheli from the Covenant. This split changed the fortunes of humanity overnight, as the Sangheili separatist forces joined the UNSC in the fight against the Covenant loyalists. This ultimately resulted in humanity's victory, meaning that Thel, virtually single-handedly, saved the entire human race from total extinction. After being rescued from his crash landing back on Earth following the Battle of the Ark, Thel journeyed back to Sanghelios to assume leadership of his people. Since he had killed the last of the Hierarchs, the Prophet of Truth, during the fighting on the Ark, the Covenant Empire was leaderless and collapsing. Thel hoped to be able to unify the Sangheili race, and sue for a lasting peace with humanity. This didn't exactly go as planned. Not all of the Khaidons on Sanghelios were in favour of peace with the humans. 28 years of brutal warring took its toll on both sides. Thel's initial attempts to win over the opposition failed, and so when he met with the UNSC's Admiral Hood in February 2553 to officially declare an end to hostilities, it was only a partial ceasefire. Despite this, relations between Sangheili and humans did improve thanks to his diplomatic efforts, and he was even invited to attend the hillside memorial at Voi, Earth, in March 2553. This represented yet another step towards a permanent truce between the two races. Although Admiral Hood was working with Thel to build good relations, the Office of Naval Intelligence was worried about the Sangheili's capability, regardless of their intent. The Commander-in-Chief, Admiral Margaret Parangoski, secretly assigned a special task force, codenamed Kilo 5, to work on destabilizing Thel's regime, and thus prevent the Sangheili from unifying and posing a threat to humanity once more. Kilo 5 began this by supplying arms to one of the groups that opposed the Arbiter, an ancient religious cult known as the Servants of Abiding Truth. Before long, the Servants of Abiding Truth, rallying behind their leader Avu Medtelkam, had grown so powerful as to be able to launch an all-out attack on Thel and his forces. They were able to corner Thel in Vadam Keep, and would have gone on to destroy the citadel if it were not for the timely arrival of the UNSC's secretly constructed new flagship, the gargantuan UNSC Infinity. Admiral Hood, on board the Infinity, offered Thel their assistance, and though it humbled him to accept it, Thel had no choice but to take Hood up on his offer. The Infinity made short work of the attackers, blasting a destroyer out of the sky, and using its Mach gun to bombard the ground forces from orbit. Thel fully capitalized on this sudden reversal of his fortunes, and took full advantage of gaining the upper hand. He forced the dissident forces to flee the system. However, wary of allowing Thel to gain complete control, Kilo 5 destroyed several of his ships while they were pursuing the retreating enemy. The attack was blamed on rogue Kigyar, but it nonetheless left Thel with barely more of a strategic advantage than he had started with. Fast forward a few years, and Thel had still not managed to unify the Sangheili, most likely due to continued interference from Kilo 5. In addition to these internal struggles, Thel also had to deal with the other ex-Covenant races. Thel had played a major role in the post-war years of dissolving the Covenant and resettling each of the client races so as to keep them all happy. The Jiralhane, however, had continued causing trouble, and by 2558, the increasing frequency of conflict between the Sangheili and Jiralhane threatened to explode into an all-out war. In an attempt to resolve the two species' differences, Thel arranged a meeting with the Jiralhane chieftain Lydus to negotiate a peace. To allow the two to meet on even terms, the negotiations were held on the neutral planet Alan 4, and a human delegation including Admiral Hood was brought in to act as mediators. The negotiations were interrupted, however, by an attack by the Covenant Remnant, an ex-Covenant splinter sect led by Julam Dharma. After managing to convince an enraged Lydus that the Sangheili Rangers who had attacked them were not his troops, Thel was able to work with the Spartan 4s escorting Hood to fight through the Covenant Remnant forces and get to safety. Thus the negotiations concluded with neither side coming to agreement, and the threat of Sangheili Jiralhane war still looming. So there you have it. As well as his role in game, Thel Vadam's story, like all the other characters I've covered thus far, greatly exceeds that which is depicted in the games. A military leader become war hero, Thel now has to shoulder the responsibilities of a politician and diplomat to safeguard the future of his species and maintain peace between the races. Being such a great character, I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see him pop up in one of the upcoming Halo titles. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I've been H. Schwakon, and I'll see you next time on Character Case Files.